I'm sitting here on a Monday just waiting to go to lunch with a friend, and while I do, I want to catch you up to speed on how this last week has gone with my memoir writing journey. Welcome to my video vlog on capturing the process of writing my memoir from start to finish. I've been working on this for just a few weeks in earnest, although it's been in the background. I've been doing a little bit of work for years on it, but I'm actually for real writing this thing. Now, last week, the vlog that I posted, I actually privated for a while because I wasn't sure that I was really proud of it, but I've unprivated it because I'm really dedicated to the idea of just actually being honest about how things are going with me. In the last episode, I was so frustrated with my outlining that I actually fed through Notebook LM all of my outline pieces and some free writing that I'd done to get feedback on how can I adjust my outline. I liked what it gave me, but this is what happened since then, is that I actually haven't referred to a single note that Notebook LM gave me. It was kind of like a good way to, well, I would say the good and the bad of using Notebook LM to feed my stuff through and then look at that feedback. The good was I felt like, oh, good, I'm encouraged. I have some feedback on my work. I don't feel so stuck. So it was more like an emotional lift than an actual help. Because when I sat down to write the next week, I didn't even refer to those notes. I mean, I printed them and I looked at them and I'm like, this is not helpful. I don't like it. It doesn't feel like it's flowing from my creativity, and I completely ignored it, which is often the way it works for me when I have used AI to get feedback. Is it just is a good way, you could say, to waste some time. But also I do get like a sense of encouragement that like, okay, maybe I can do this. I do have at least something to hold on to, but it's more just like an emotional support animal kind of, to be like, oh, I have some help, but I almost never use what I actually get for feedback. So anyway, as per par for the course, I did not use any of that. So this last week, how things went, so I actually went on a week getaway with my husband in our camping trailer, and my intention was just to chill and try not to focus on writing, like let my brain have a breather. But a couple of days in, after we'd binge watched some young Sherlock and just like totally unwound, I thought, you know what, I really would like to take a few hours every day and write, because my brain actually feels free and like able to think, which during the normal week when I have to deal with work and cooking and all the things, I can barely squeeze in time to get any writing done. So I actually took 3 days during our camping trip, and on each of those 3 days I took about 6 hours to just sit in a little quiet space in our camp trailer and write. And while I did that, I was able to get some more bullet points done in my just kind of in my outline. I struggled a lot with outlining because that is currently where I'm at. I know that I'm supposed to be like, technically I'm supposed to be in the quit thinking about it too hard and just get the initial draft. I'm supposed to be in creative brain, where I just start writing all the scenes from start to finish that feel like they need to go in my book without overthinking it, because I can always edit that later. That comes later. I have a basic outline. I just need to get that first draft done, which I did for the first day. But then I was up in the night kind of thinking a lot about the draft, and I always keep thinking, wait, is this memoir actually 4 different stories or 1 story? Because I really could split it up into my childhood and teenage years and then how I recovered from that. And then another one could be my 2 marriages and how I dealt with that. And then another one could be, about, I've got a couple of other topics in there. But the outline as it stands is just the whole thing. So I'm struggling because I have so many different themes that I could follow. I feel like there's a lot of potential in my story to look at themes of forgiveness and resilience and, education and struggles with spirituality and finding meaning in difficult childhood and learning how to get your voice and, grow past dysfunction, and how to have the faith in yourself to leave a bad situation, and how to love, family members when they don't seemingly love you back or whatever. There's like so many themes that I keep going. If I can't identify just 3 basic themes, I'll be chasing too many cats while I try to write this. So then I'm like, oh, I need to fix my outline to just reflect these few themes. But then I'm like, but I can't do that until I just get the basic draft done and get the story out, because there's so many things eating at my brain that need to be told. So I go back and forth. So that first day I just did free writing. The second day I actually was able to rethink some of my themes and fix some of my outline pieces. And then the third day I did a combination of outlining and free writing. And on my trip, I also read 2 books about memoir that were very helpful. Of course, I've read quite a few things on writing, but I've been doing more reading specifically on memoir. So I will put in the description here the couple of books that I read, because they had a lot of really useful information about structure. That one particular by Jenny, I can't remember her last name, but you'll see it in the description. She talks about how important it is to just put your nose down and get that first draft done. That yes, you have a basic outline, you have an idea, but then you need to just get that first draft done. And that was very encouraging to me, because then she gives suggestions for after you get that first draft done, then what do you do with that draft? How do you fix it? Because of course it's going to be broken in 1,000 ways. So again, I'll put that link in the description. And then the other book that I read, I found really useful too. Every book that I read about memoir, something comes out of it that helps me, because there are so many moving parts in trying to figure out whether it's your mindset or your voice or which stories to pick, or how do you even choose your theme, or all these different things. So again, I'll put those books in the description. They were really helpful, and I'm already on reading another memoir book this week. And the way I read those is I download them on my Kindle, because I don't have time during the day to read, but at night as I'm going to sleep, I like the Kindle because I can turn on the setting where all the blue light is turned off. It's just mostly red light that comes out of it, so it doesn't interfere with sleep. And I read that until I fall asleep, and then if I wake up in the night, which is not infrequent, then I can read myself back to sleep. And if I'm having an insomnia night, well, the good thing is I get some reading done, and it's not putting that blue light into my brain. It's also not tempting me to go down internet rabbit holes, because the Kindle doesn't have any internet rabbit holes. And that way I can just read it like a book and go right back to sleep when I'm tired of reading about it. So in a nutshell, this last week has been admitting that what I got from Notebook LM wasn't very helpful, and I didn't use it. But the good thing was it did at least give me a sense of encouragement and forward movement, which is not nothing. It really is not nothing. And the second thing would be, sometimes you got to just let your brain detox, like I did for a couple days on my camp trip. And sometimes it's time to just put your nose down and say, I'm taking advantage of this time, which I did, because I got a good solid 18 hours done. I probably got maybe 15,000 words written. So I think I'm at about 30 or 32,000 words now, but some of that is copy paste from like a couple years ago that I have to kind of rework. And then the last thing was, I would just say memoir books are so motivational. The trick is always, of course, with anything that you're doing other than just writing, the challenge is don't use that as an excuse not to write. So one of the things I've been doing lately that I'm sure I've talked about is I'm transcribing old journals, going through a bunch of my old childhood, teenage handwritten journals and typing them and transcribing them, so I can easily do a Control F, find, where certain names or events pop up, and then I can, easily look at that and verify my thinking. But if I only was doing that and not writing, it could be an excuse not to write. It's valid, but that's not going to get the book written. Right. And so it's also valid to spend time on AI, getting feedback and some encouragement and maybe trying to toss around theme ideas, but it's not actually getting the writing done. I will say one other thing about AI for this week. I did spend some time chatting with Gemini about theme and iterating on title and elevator pitch ideas, because I'm trying to refine the focus of my book. And in some ways, that was a distraction from just putting my head down and writing, but I felt like it was helpful, because even though every time I iterate on my theme and my elevator pitch, I end up changing it a little bit later, but that's the process. That's the creative journey. And everything I've read tells me to just have peace with that, to be okay with iterating back and forth and changing it and changing it again and changing it again. And I can tell you, I've learned that that's absolutely true, because last year I did write a book from start to finish. I got, it definitely needs an editor still, but I got all of my edits done. And the creative process was very much messy, back and forth, editing, changing, switching, rethinking, having to print the whole thing out and cut it up into pieces and rearrange the order and then type it all back up and then rethink the way I introduce it and throw this chapter out and plug something else in and then change it back to how it was. That was the process with that book. And for a while, but it gave me a lot of confidence doing that, because for a while I thought, I'll never get this book done. It's so overwhelming. But I just hung in there and I kept messing around with it and iterating, and it did come through. And part of that was because I set a deadline for myself of October 1st, my birthday last year, to have the book done and submitted to a publisher, which I did, and it was rejected, which is not surprising because I didn't hire a professional editor and I didn't know what I was doing with my query letter. And when I showed that query letter to my book coach, she kind of was polite, but she said that's not a good query letter. So that was a bit of a tangent, but I will say that I have learned from the process of writing a book before in the past that the messy back and forth of changing the theme, changing the order, doubting yourself, switching it again, thinking you're onto something, and then realizing you were a fool, that is the journey. The main thing is to not get stuck in all of that and to make sure you keep writing as you go. So that's what I'm trying to do, is make sure I keep writing as I go. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's encouraging you on your journey if you're following along and writing. Also, I'm excited to look back on this in the future and see what a gnarly mess it can be, because I think that the memoir writing process also mirrors every creative process and every growth journey that you have in life, which is you step into the dark, you do not know what you're doing, you don't know how it's going to end. Because I still have so many unanswered questions. I have the voices in my head saying my family will think I'm nuts, and other voices in my head thinking they'll say, this is super cool. I have voices in my head saying, I know I can get an agent and I know I can get a publisher interested. And one way or another, it will get published, even if I self-publish it. Of course, I'd prefer whatever's going to be easiest for me, but I cannot guarantee that even after it's published that it will sell. So there's the voices in your head saying no one will care to read it. And then there's the voices in my head that say, but on the other hand, who cares if they care, because it really is for me. It's going to set me free by being more clear on my story. And then there's the voices in my head that say this could really do some good to other people. And then the voices in my head that say, yeah, but you got to do it right. You have to have the right skills to make it actually meaningful for a stranger to read. And are you going to be so kind of delusional that you won't see that you don't have those skills? There's all those voices. I battle them all, but in the end, I'm going to keep going. And this will be fun to look back on in the future when whatever is going to happen has happened, and I can just kind of see where I was at. So I hope this is helpful and fun for you. And if you're on a journey with me, drop a comment and tell me where you're at on your journey. If you're just thinking about starting a memoir, if you're just wondering, should I even try? If you're getting ready to be published and you're, feeling sorry for me, wherever you're at, feel free to send me a comment. I'd love to hear. And I will drop another video next time. Bye-bye.